right, good dad day, everybody. Hope you guys are having a good weekend. Hope your last week was doing or was well, good, great. I don't know how to go about that. I currently look like shit because I literally rolled out of bed, threw my sweater on, threw my hat on, came downstairs and decided, hey, let's record video with today's podcast. Um, so with that, let's get into what we're going to be talking about today. Um, Today, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of my story going from divorced with a little girl to being where I am now, and kind of that uphill battle as it was. Because there's a lot of you that have been reaching out to me and just kind of saying, hey, um, there's some things that I want you to talk about. I've experienced this. Maybe you have. If this is something that you can put on the podcast, great. So we're going to do that. We're also going to do a little bit of a review on the beautiful S23 Ultra. Thank you, Samsung, for that one. And then I don't know if you can see it in the background, but we have the Z Flip 4 up, and we are running the Nova Launcher 7 on it because the app launcher that Samsung has on their phones naturally just it doesn't suck. It just isn't what I want. I want to be able to customize my phone, and Nova Launcher does that. So hopefully they'll be a sponsor in our videos or our podcast. Sorry, I'm also a little bit sick. My daughter's sick, and I'm starting to get a little bit of sick. So if I'm clearing my throat a lot, that's the reason why. All right. Real quick, I'm sorry that it took so long to get another podcast out. I know it was like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. It's getting increasingly difficult to find time to put these things together. And now that I want to add video to it, we might be pushing about 2 weeks for every episode. I hope you guys stick with us. We got 17 new subscribers last week. That's freaking beautiful. And in just one day, we had 63 different listens. And that may not seem like a lot, but that's huge for us to jump off the ground. We also have our new logo coming up, uh, which you'll see posted on our Instagram, TikTok. You'll see it up on the YouTube channel, which is live. There's only one video on there, but it is live. So let's jump into the story. I think I talked about this a little bit in the very first episode. Um, I am divorced, although I'm currently in another marriage, which is freaking heaven compared to my first one. Um, my first marriage happened in a way that I think I don't necessarily think fa- uh, uh, I don't think I turned it into something it wasn't. I think it was what it was, but it was not worth getting married into. So, my ex-wife and I had known each other. Well, we knew each other when we were little. Our parents knew each other. We lost touch in between about I don't know 7 years old, 10 years old, until middle school, where she found out that her cousin actually lived across the street from my best friend. So we reconnected there for like, I don't know, a summer. We were not together, but she had this huge crush on me supposedly. Um, Again, kind of fell off the grid. She disappeared. I went off into the military. Um, and so one year I was living in San Francisco and she randomly hits me up and she's just like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but uh, my cousin used to live across the street from you, and our parents used to know each other. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember you. Anyway, we get to talking, and she comes out to visit me in San Francisco at the time. Uh, and we decided, hey, we're gonna check this out. We're gonna see how this goes. Now, she did have a daughter from her previous marriage, who I got along with. We were great. I tried to step into that stepdad role. Um, Seemed to have a good relationship with her. We, used to go do a bunch of stuff. Anyway, we'll elaborate more on all of that a little bit further down the road. Um, so we moved not necessarily fast, but I had moved back to Southern California from San Francisco, and at the time, I was not looking to date someone. I wasn't looking to get into a relationship. So I told her, I am not looking for a relationship. I don't think we really have that chemistry. We cool as friends, like we can hang out, but I don't want to do all that. In reality, the my whole purpose of that was I was actually trying to talk to somebody else. which was probably messed up, but hey, we are where we are. So anyway, down the line, we end up getting together, and we dated for a few years. I ended up moving in with her to her mom's house, um, and over time, her mom and her friends and stuff like that were kind of like, "Hey, if you don't ask her to marry you, she's gonna take off." And we were cool. Like there was nothing wrong with our relationship at the time. We were really cool. Like we had fun. We used to go do stuff, and it was a good time. Like no issues. It was like the second that ring went on her finger, she turned into a completely different person. Now, mind you, throughout the entirety of our relationship, just kind of being boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you want. I hate those words. It's like I'm in high school. In the midst of being boyfriend, girlfriend, we had little things that went wrong. Like she'd reach out to her ex, and then accuse me of doing the same thing, and I'm just like, I'm not dealing with all that. So we had our problems. Um, Decided to get married. My best friend and my mother both told me like, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is what I want to do." And in my head, I'm like, "I want to do this because she's cool, and we're gonna like if we get married, we just same thing as what we're doing now. We're just hanging out, right?" I was an idiot. So we get engaged, and there's this one time during our engagement that really resonated with me. One of her, what I would call best friends at the time, we all had gone out. We used to go to this piano bar in Long Beach. We all went out. We told them that we were engaged. She went off to go to the restroom, and her friend comes up to me and is like, "Are you sure you wanna marry her?" I w I was just blown away. I'm like, "Aren't you her friend? Aren't you supposed to be like, 'Oh, you should marry her, you should marry her?'" She asked if I was sure because she was like, "You know how she is, how she can get sometimes." And in my head, I'm just like, "Yeah, let's do it." Anyway, we go down the line. We spend almost 25 to 30 grand on this freaking wedding. Absolutely terrible idea. My folks paid for a gigantic amount of that. Um, and the whole wedding went off. Everything was great. The night of the wedding, where you think like, "Oh, we're gonna have a good time," nothing, nothing. She had like this attitude the whole time. So then the next day, we're supposed to take off on our honeymoon, which my folks paid for that as well. Um, and we are supposed to go to Alcatraz. Alcatraz. We're supposed to go to Catalina Island. So we get on the boat, we head out to Catalina Island, and we're like hanging out. It's an island, right? Even though it's not super far from the shore, it's still an island. And they have to import water because at the time, I don't know, they're having some kind of issue with their purification process. So they import water. So when you go to a restaurant, just like any restaurant, and you're just getting water normally, on an island, you have to drink the bottled water, which means they have to charge you for it. She had an attitude about that. She had an attitude about where we ate. She had an attitude about what we did. She wouldn't get in the water because she was afraid of the fish. She didn't want to sit on the beach because she felt she didn't look good enough. It was just one problem after another, and it never stopped. From that moment, it never stopped. Everything was a problem. I was an idiot. I was annoying. I was cheating on her. Now, that didn't happen for the entirety of the marriage, which only lasted 2 years. We ended up moving from multiple places because we got evicted. Part of that was my fault, part of that was her fault. Now, if you were to talk to her, 100% of that would be my fault. Of course. So we get evicted, we move out, we end up finding another place, move into that, get evicted again, end up moving back in with my parents, and we're living with my parents, I think a total of like a year and a half. In that time, she got pregnant and we had our daughter. Greatest thing that could have ever happened to me, had my daughter. She's beautiful, she's fantastic, she's a goofball, just like me, looks like me, everything. Beautiful. That little girl was more attached to me than she was her mom. And there's reasons for that that I'm not going to get into, but it was mainly her and I for majority of the time. I would take her to her nanny. I would pick her up. At 11 or 12 o'clock, when I would get home, she would still be up, usually jumping around in her crib. I would take her out and play with her. If my mom got home before I did, she would play with her. My ex-wife would literally just lay in bed. Like, it was ridiculous. Now I get it. I've talked to my current wife about it, and postpartum depression and all of this stuff. She refused to get any kind of help. She refused to admit that that was what it was. She just never really had that connection with it like I did. So we end up splitting because she finds out that I had been talking to somebody else, nothing sexual, just talking, because I was tired of being treated like shit. And so this person and I connected on that more emotional level, which again, I think I talked about in another episode, is a legitimate thing. Like, emotional cheating is a real thing. So we ended up talking and kind of developing a little bit of a relationship through that. She found out and basically told me to leave. So I did. And that was the moment when I said, you know what? My daughter's a little over a year and a half. Now's the time. If I'm not going to leave now, I'm never going to leave. And I'm just going to be miserable for the rest of my life. So I left. There were times after I left, I was homeless for like 2 weeks. I was living in my truck and I would drive around and find a place to park. This is before I knew that you could just park at freaking Walmart and camp out. But I would park and, I had lost my job because she had done some stuff and called in, and it was just a mess. Um, so I ended up finding a new job. I found a new place. Everything started going smooth. I would take my daughter when I could afford to pay whatever I needed, I would pay. When I could afford to do this, I'm basically starting over from scratch. So further down the line, I find my at the time girlfriend, my current wife. We start dating. We had known each other in high school. I had a huge crush on her in high school, so it was like a dream to date her. Um, she came with 3 kids, and we dated for a while and decided to move in together. And everything's going great. When all of a sudden, one weekend when I'm supposed to have my daughter, all of a sudden, I just can't have her. My ex-wife is like, "No, you'll have to visit with her at a park so I can supervise." And I'm like, "What in the hell is going on right now? This is not normal. This is not normal behavior." So she threatens to call the cops if I take her. She stands there like a freaking hawk watching me with her. I'm like, I am not a criminal. What the hell is going on? A couple of weeks later, the cops show up to our apartment and start asking my wife's daughter if I have ever been inappropriate with her. Now, let me tell you, this set me off something fucking fierce. This was absolutely ridiculous, unheard of. I could not believe what was happening. Child Support Services came in and did a whole investigation. The LA County Sheriffs did a whole investigation. Took me in for questioning. Did a polygraph test on me, which I passed with flying colors because I'm not a fucking nasty pervert. This whole thing happens because she throws out some false ass allegations to try and keep my daughter away from me. I go to court the first time, judge still keeps my daughter away from me. I go to court a second time. I explain to the judge, case is closed. There's no charges against me. They found no evidence that anything happened. They actually found that the people that were giving these false claims, their stories didn't match, the timeline didn't match, location didn't match. Nothing made any sense. Nothing. Still kept my daughter away from me and upped my child support. Does that make any sense to you? How does that work? I'm not a felon. I served my country honorably. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't do anything fucking crazy. Yet you're gonna still keep my kid away from me? For what? For what? There was no answer. They don't give you an answer. They just tell you this is my ruling and that's it and you have to deal with it. How horseshit is that? I ended up having to get taken out of the courthouse because I told the judge that he had his head up his ass, which probably wasn't the best thing. But I was lucky because the bailiff who was in there was LA County Sheriff and he was ex military and he knew I was ex-military because he and I had been chatting a little bit before. So he's like, "Look, man, just walk out. I understand your frustration. Just go." So I left, and it has been a battle since then. I don't understand. I really don't understand. I don't do anything bad. I don't do anything wrong. I moved out of California to better myself, to better my situation, to be able to buy a house so that I can have all of this stuff for my kids, right? You want to set your kids up. That's a whole reason why you do what you do. It's a whole reason why you work as hard as you do is for your children. Yet I'm in the wrong for moving. No sense, makes no sense. As my daughter has gotten older, she has expressed the desire to want to come out here. Her mom says no. Courts say no. Does that make any fucking sense to anybody? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. And it's just been this constant thing. And of course, the state of California is just like, just shut your mouth and pay your child support. My family, most of them, save for my father, okay, he does not do this. And my mother has helped in her way to allow me to help me see my daughter when I do go out to California. So that way I don't have to hire somebody to supervise. My mother supervises. So anyway, it's just this constant pay and shut your mouth and just deal with what you have. Pay and shut your mouth and support a child that we're not going to let you see. How does that make sense? There are hundreds of thousands of fathers out there that want nothing to do with their children, and they're going to tell me I'm in the wrong. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So this is where I am now. Now I am trying to work back into getting more time with my daughter, getting her to come out here, trying to work out a way just with her mom because the courts aren't going to do it to get her out here. And I am pleased to say that this summer she is supposed to come out here with my mother to have a little vacation. Now, is this a step in the direction of, ultimately you'll be able to have more time with her? I don't know. Do I want that to be the case? Of course I do. Do I think that's what the case is going to be? No, I do not. But you can hope. So that's kind of where I'm at. If you have been through something like that, if that resonates with you, please reach out and let me know. If you're somewhere close by, um, Leander, Texas, uh, let me know. I'll bring you on. You can talk about your time. You can talk about what's going on. That's what this whole thing was for, is to open up that discussion and let you guys know that there are other dads out there that are going through the same shit as you. They're experiencing the same thing, and maybe with a little bit of support, we can kind of help each other and move out of that realm of just horseshit. All right, so enough with the heaviness, enough with the drama. It's not my favorite thing to talk about, but it is important, and I'd like to move in the direction of the fun stuff. Now, I'm gonna do this quick little sneak peek here. I am going on week number 1 with my Z Flip 4. I did have the Flip 3, but I moved to the Fold 3 because I like the acreage. I like to be able to spread out and do what I want to do. But I kind of forgot that the portability of the Flip was just amazing. Full size phone when you're looking at it here, but then all you have to do is, and this little thing goes right in your pocket. It's beautiful. I like the new finish. It feels better in the hand. It's a little more square. And there's some other updates and things like that. But I'm going to be using this for the next week to 2 weeks. And then when we do our next episode, I'll do a full review on this. Um, with that, our actual review unit is this monster beauty right here, the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. This thing is awesome. Okay. I was a huge Note fan when the Note series was still a thing, which it seems like Samsung has just replaced the Notes with this new S series. So if you're a Note fan, sorry, but honestly, this is the same thing. I had the last Note, the Note 20 Ultra, um, and it was a beautiful phone. Great, took great pictures, took great video, everything. Uh, but I don't know. There's something about this S23 that's just I don't know. It just seems faster. Like I mean, just the animation speed of moving through everything, it just seems quicker. Scrolling seems quicker, going through oh, I don't have other windows. But it seems really good, and it's beautiful. I mean, look at this thing. Like, the camera bumps on the back, I know a lot of people don't like these. I like them. I think it looks really sleek. And then the beauty of all of this is that you still get the S Pen inside the actual phone. Now, the Fold gives you the ability to use an S Pen, but you can't store it in the phone. One of the biggest things that I have a complaint with that Fold is the fact that I cannot store the S Pen on the chassis itself, but I can with this. The only problem is it's a slab. I mean, how boring have we gotten to the point where every phone looks the same, right? The S22 looks exactly like this. Exactly like this. Save for a few specs, it really kind of is the same thing. So they're just getting so boring. That's why I really like the Flip series, the Fold series. I want more Fold phones to come to the market because I want to be able to check them out and see how they move and operate and fold and improvements to the hinge and everything like that. That's what I want. That's what I want to see. This, even though it's a beautiful phone, takes great pictures, takes great video, it's just not there for me. So let's talk a little bit about it. The whole screen size overall is 6.8 inches, so from edge to edge. Its peak brightness, they did bump it up, I think, from last year. It's at 1750 nits, 1750 nits. So it can get very, very bright, and it's very easy to read in sunlight once you turn up the brightness. Um, its refresh rate is 120 hertz. So there's no lag in scrolling, there's no lag in changing apps, there's none of that. This one is the smaller of the uh, versions. This one's only 256 gigs of memory, which most of my phones are 256 or 512, just because I upload all my images to Google. So that's what really takes most of your space is the images and the video and stuff like that. Um, the cameras are beautiful. We're rocking the selfie camera, which is 12 megapixels, the ultra wide camera, 12 megapixels, and then the wide angle camera, which is 200 megapixels. And I have noticed that megapixels don't really make that big of a difference. It's the processing of the image, right? So, I mean, what we're talking about right now is just the real techie stuff. 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which is great, lasts a long time. It's a 2-day phone. It's rocking the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 mobile platform for Galaxy. That chip is, I believe, top notch. What I mean in top notch is like the newest. Um, the phone runs super quick, even with just the 8 gigs of RAM. It's still rock solid, moves and grooves. You can operate on it. You can play games on it without a problem. The body is the Armor aluminum still, Gorilla Glass Victus 2, and it has a water resistance rating of IP68. Um, I don't ever take my phone into the shower or anything like that, so I'm not really sure why the water rating is that big a deal. It's not to me. Um, I guess if you're out in the rain or something like that. But if we're talking from just operability standpoint, right? Let's talk about how we use it as dads. You're texting your kids all the time, right? Notifications come across smooth. You can adjust it to be a different color for each kid. You can set it up so that you have fast texting on the actual homepage. It's like a little widget. You just click the button, shoot a text. I think it has if this, then that on it built into it already, which means you can set up, if this happens or if it's this time, you can send this text. So one of your kids is out, say, if it's 11 o'clock and my child is not home, send a text message. Where the hell are you? Pictures, it's great for pictures. It's great for video. If you subscribe to my TikTok, which I really hope you do, I know it's a China run company, but I'm not putting any sensitive information up there. Um, if you follow my TikTok, which I hope you do, uh, all the videos are shot on the S22 or sorry, S23 Ultra. And all the B-roll for this video and any other video that's to come is going to be shot on the S23 until they come out with a new phone that has a better camera. Um, my kids can take this and rock it around. It's solid. I don't put a case on most of my phones. I just skin it with D brand, which I think we've talked about before. I have my fold here, rocking the leather skin. Beautiful, beautiful. Weathered look. Uh, Feels great in the hand, and it helps with that slippy issue. This one is going to be rocking a different skin. It should be here in a couple of days, and when that happens, I'll put a video up of me putting it on. Um, and I'm going to end up skinning this now that you have seen the actual body. It is a fingerprint monster on the front and a little bit on the back. Um, but the skin will help with that, of course. So my kids can take it and move around and use it and play with it, and I don't have a problem with it. It's portable, obviously. Just stick it in your pocket like any other phone. It is a little bit bigger than most phones, but it is what it is. And then for me, because sometimes I come up with ideas for the podcast or ideas for TikTok videos, I can just pop that pen out, right? This is what I want to do and be done with it. My fold, I can do the same thing, but I have to be carrying the pen with me. Um, it is a perfect everyday carry for anybody that wants to be able to operate quickly, efficiently, and with a nice little S Pen. Um, but also wants to be able to capture those moments where you're hanging out with your friends and your family and your wife and just really appreciate the time that you have with them. Um, we're going to cut today's episode a little short. We're just going to pop in the 30 minutes. Um, if there's something else you guys want to talk about, let me know. I am really fingers crossed here. I'm going to be bringing on two other guys from a group that I'm part of. Um, I was hoping to have one on today, but it didn't work out that way. Not a big deal. But I got another guy that I'm supposed to talk to, and then the one that was supposed to be on today, we're gonna reconnect and talk about some stuff and see what they want to dig into. So I'm really hoping that goes through. If there's something else you want me to review, let me know. Next week's podcast and video, we're going to review this Kentucky Fire Cured. I'm not sure really who makes it. I don't know who makes it. I'll have to figure it out. But we're gonna review this bad boy, so I'll have that. I'm also gonna talk a little bit about security cameras. I'm rocking the Blink system right now, which seems to be okay for me. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about a couple other things. I'm hopefully gonna get this video up this afternoon so that you guys can see it. The podcast will be up this afternoon. And yeah, keep following, keep listening. If there's something in particular you want to talk about, let me know. And I guess we'll just see you in the next one. So, like I say always, stay frosty. Have a good one.